What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts from the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, Tad the Side. And Tad, we are almost here. We're almost here. As of recording, it is Thursday, and the Super Bowl is obviously happening on Sunday, so it's a matter of just, a weekend almost. It's
roughly 72 hours. Roughly
72 hours. Yeah, exactly.
If my math is correct, which is a big if.
No, you're right. You're right. Especially when this episode posts. Especially when this episode posts, it's going to be less than 72 hours too, for sure. So, yeah, it's exciting times. We're almost here at the Super Bowl, but just, fortunately, Tad, it's a little bit bittersweet too, because this is like kind of the end of football then. It's like, I know we get into the off season. It's a whole separate type of fun, but it's just like no more live football action. When it comes to the NFL, like, I mean, we can discuss the XFL and the USFL.
Don't you discount my Battlehawks.
Exactly. We can discuss the XFL and the USFL on a separate podcast, but yeah, that's the only football that we'll have up until August when we'll get the Hall of Fame game and things along those lines. But yeah, like I said, a little bittersweet when the Super Bowl ends.
You know, it's funny. The bittersweet moment actually doesn't hit me. It never really has before the Super Bowl. It's always during like the trophy presentation when they're on the podium. That's always when it hits me, because it's like I love the Super Bowl. It absolutely should be a national holiday. That is a separate segment, but like Super Bowl Monday should be a national holiday. So I'm too excited for the game. I really don't even care it was Patriots Rams. I hate both those teams, and I was so excited. So the bittersweet hasn't hit me yet, but it absolutely will post game. Yeah, actually, that's not true, because I'm going to be there post game, so that's going to be really cool. Actually,
that will be interesting scene to see just how the traffic getting out of that stadium will be. And
my dad and I were talking. We're just going to stay in the stadium for like an hour after the game.
Do it. Even longer than that. I do that for regular season games. Just stay there for like an hour.
Well, you had the California traffic, though.
I was exaggerating it for sure, but at least like 30 minutes, maybe. It's like, but yeah,
God knows you don't have to do that for the A's games.
Oh, geez, you're gonna start with this already? Come on, dude. Yeah, that's topic for another day. But you know what's not going to be bittersweet, Tad, is that Super Bowl means betting. Prop bets, regular bets, I mean, all sorts of bets. We're going to cover that in today's episode for sure. But of course, all of our odds and our friends at Bet Online want to make sure that you are covered with all of your Super Bowl bets, because they are the number one source for all your sports betting needs this entire season long. You always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends with Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest, easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events, whether that's the NFL with the Super Bowl, NBA, it was the trade deadline, so we got lots of wheeling and dealing.
I'm still not through all of them.
Odds are changing left and right, so I mean, that's going to be fun to bet on. You got the NHL, they had their trade deadline, so that's going to be fun. MLB is springing up pitchers and catchers next week, so I mean, you got some odds for who's going to be going to the World Series, so you got that. You got MMA, tennis, boxing, golf, esports. They got you covered on all fronts. So head to Bet Online today on your computer or mobile device and join, and you can receive a 50% of a welcome bonus on top of your first deposit. Make sure you use our promo code BELIEVE, capital BLEAV, and you can receive a 50% welcome bonus on top of your first deposit. Once again, that promo code is BELIEVE, capital BLEAV, and you can receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. So I already sort of mentioned it here, but yeah, the beginning part of our episode, we're going to get into some Super Bowl props. Like, I mean, this is sort of
far too long since we've done betting. far too long.
This has sort of been like an annual tradition for Tad. Like even before we did the podcast, Tad was doing articles for Super Bowl bets on LAFB Network. Actually, at that time, it was still Sports Al Dente. Like this was the infancy stages of when you were doing these articles. And this has been going on for a long time. So we want to keep the tradition alive here. So Tad's got some fun bets that we want to get to. Some of them serious, some of them a little bit more fun. But yeah, we're going to get into a handful of them here. So Tad, what is the first prop that you want to bring up here?
Let's just start off with the big hoss. Money line. Who's going to win it? So at first I was actually kind of surprised at this, but the more I thought about it, it kind of made more sense. And you know what? Obviously, people are going to ask, hey, Tad, who you got in the Super Bowl? And here's your answer. I am taking Kansas City money line at plus 100. And what surprised me, I thought Kansas City was going to be favorites. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, no, this actually makes sense that, Philly is the favorite.
And really quick to interject, if you're looking at the spread, because I don't know if you have those numbers, but the current spread right now.
I didn't trust it.
Current spread, thanks to our friends at Bet Online, is Philly by 1.5. So yeah, Philly is the favorite right now.
And we've always said any spread 2 or below, or really 2.5 below, is just a glorified money line. It's funny to say that because I believe my memory is kind of fried right now. Shocker. But I believe when I was taking my notes, or at least looking at the odds, Philly was actually 3.5. So I wonder, you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm going to get into, I bet you I know why that dropped. So first things first, I get why they're underdogs. Mahomes is hurt. Eagles were dominant in that NFC Championship, obviously with a huge asterisk before you jump on my back. But I do think that plays a factor, right? People are like, oh, that Bengals Chiefs game was close. The other one, not so close. Well, yeah, but look a little closer. But of course, our friends at Bet Online wouldn't do that because they're smart. That's why they dropped the spread. So there are a lot of questions surrounding the Chiefs secondary, but I'll get into that a little later. The Eagles' biggest compliment, and here's where the key of the game is, and this is hardly a hot take, is the Eagles' biggest compliment on the defense is their pass rush. They tied, I think it was 3rd or 4th all-time team sacks with 70 this year. The problem is the Chiefs' O-line, I feel like, is being vastly overlooked this week. I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve. This is probably, in my opinion, the second best O-line in the league. Problem is the Eagles probably have the best, but that's another discussion. So I think if, and again, this is a big if, but I think it's a possible if the Chiefs O-line holds up and keeps Mahomes upright for most of the game, because they're not going to keep him upright for the entire game, that is how they can win this game. And also, the Eagles have a very middling pass rush, and it's worth noting that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is it Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Edwards-Helaire? I always forget which one's plural.
Yeah, you're adding an S to his first name. It's just Clyde, and then it's Edwards.
So I got it right the first time. I've tried both. You shoot your, hey, I shot 50%. I'll take it.
Okay.
So he's back. He was just activated off IR. Now, here's a huge piece of news I think just dropped today, and I think this might be a big reason why that spread kind of dipped. L'Jarius Sneed just cleared concussion protocol. So according to Sneed, he is good to go. That is a massive addition to that Chiefs secondary because everyone will say going in, that is where the Eagles can win this game. So that is huge for them. And also, I know Mahomes' ankle isn't great, but he didn't look all that bad in Cincinnati. I know he was kind of against Cincinnati before people yell. It was in Arrowhead. I know. Shh. He was limping around a little bit, but with the amount of medicine, and we're going to kind of gel over the other possible procedures that maybe
leave it at medicine. Let's move on.
All right, we'll leave it at medicine. Okay. I don't think the ankle is going to bother him so much that will be a huge game changer. So I think honestly, this is a toss up. So I like the Chiefs more just because they have that Super Bowl experience. They have this Jalen Hurts for a Super Bowl. You guys got to remember, I know people are like, the Eagles went 3-4 years ago. This is not the same Eagles team. So I actually like the Chiefs pulling off this upset. But that's why I'm going money line, because I could see this game honestly ending within a point or two. So it's going to be a close game. I expect it to be a close game, but ultimately I think Kansas City is going to pull it out.
Yeah, we'll get to our score predictions towards the end of the episode here, but you actually brought up my X factor for this game, and that's the Eagles pass rush versus the Chiefs O-line, because you already brought this up. The Eagles posted 70 sacks during the regular season, which was the clear league lead by a good margin, because you know who was second, Ted? The Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh. I
The
actually would
Kansas
not
City
have guessed
Chiefs were
that.
actually second in the NFL with sacks, but they trailed by 15. Like, this is how good the Eagles pass rush
Like I said,
was
third or
during the
fourth all
regular season.
time.
So they had 55 during the regular season. So yeah, that's 15 less than what the Eagles had. But like I said, to counter the fact that the Eagles are so good at pass rush during the regular season, the Chiefs allowed only 26 sacks during the regular season, which was the third best mark in the NFL. So I mean, clearly, like you said, this offensive line, I think, is getting a little bit overlooked because of how dominant the Eagles pass rush has been. But just they can hold up. Like, we've talked about this offensive line so much with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Joe Tooney and all these guys, Orlando Brown, excuse me, I'm forgetting some of these guys, which is like, that's
There's
how
so
stout.
many.
Yeah, exactly. I could just keep going on if I wanted to, but just that's how stout their offensive line is. But just like I said, the counterpoint is just as Eagles pass rush has been very dominant. But here's the thing that's going to be very interesting is that the blueprint has been laid out for the Eagles, Tad, because if you remember, the Chiefs played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl on the greatest stage of them all. And what did the Buccaneers do? They pressured Mahomes. They got 22 pressures in that game, 3 sacks, 11 hurries, all on Patrick Mahomes. Those are very good numbers to get against a quarterback that can absolutely dice you up if he gets enough time to throw the ball. So, I mean, we talked about this after the Super Bowl was over that year. Mahomes ran for nearly 500 yards pre-throw and pre-sack. Like, I mean, they had him running all over. So, I mean, it's like, I know, Tad, you like to quote your favorite movies. I'm going to quote one of mine. It's right there, black and white, crystal clear. Like, I mean, in this case, you know, the Eagles are not stealing fizzy lifting drink, but in this case, they have the blueprint on how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs by getting a good pass rush here. So, I mean, honestly, like I said, they've been doing it consistently all season long. They've been getting into the backfield, getting good pressure, but just, yeah, if the Chiefs can sort of hold up here, keep Patrick Mahomes upright, limit him from running around too much, Chiefs have a very strong chance to win. But like I said, I really like this Eagles pass rush. But like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later. But I can see why you go with the money line here. But just, yeah, this is my huge X factor. Whether the Chiefs O-line can hold up or whether the Eagles pass rush can sort of get it.
Chauncey Talese is going to kill me. What movie is that?
Oh, dude. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Say the line again.
It's right there, black and white, clear as crystal.
What part is that from?
Oh, it's towards the end.
Okay, well, there you go. That movie always freaked me out as a kid, so I barely ever got to the... Is that when they're in the weird office with all the half things? That's it.
Towards the end.
No, I always bailed. Oh,
that's for some reason. Yeah.
For some reason, that part always freaked me out.
Oh, man. You got to watch it again. But
R.I.P.G. Wilder.
So 100%, like I said, that's my X factor too. It's like, who's going to win on that side, whether it's the Chiefs O-line or the Eagles pass rush. That's really going to be a huge determining factor in this game.
Yep. All right. So getting into our next game prop and our last game prop. This one was actually a little tougher because, like I said, I think I got into the odds a little too late in the week. But this is still one I feel pretty confident in. It is Miles Sanders. His first rush will be over 3.5 yards at plus 100. So I know that's a risky bet, right? Because runs are always, it's entirely situational. But Miles Sanders in the regular season averaged 4.9 yards per carry. The Chiefs defense allowed 4.5 yards per carry. So already you have a middling, not terrible. I'm not saying they're bad before Kansas City fans come after me. They have a middling run defense with a running back that clearly has explosive potential. Now, the reason I like this so much is because that RPO offense the Eagles run opens up so much more space for Miles Sanders to actually break off, not even a big run, just a pretty good chunk size run, which 3.5 yards is. And on top of that, I think the Eagles are smart about how they use Miles Sanders. They don't just run him and run him and run him. And it's like, hey, we'll just keep running. They don't do the Najee Harris approach where it's like, keep throwing him at the line. He'll break it out eventually. It's not happening. It's fine. It'll happen. Like, they don't do that. They know that Jalen Hurts is well capable of carrying the run game. So I think they're actually going to keep Miles Sanders, not on the sideline literally, but I think they're going to kind of keep him reserved until they know that defense is kind of backing off a bit and then give him the ball. So I really like the chances of Miles Sanders going for over 3.5 yards on his first carry. And knowing my luck, he's going to finish at like 3.3.
Oh, 100%. Because this is actually one of my key questions for this game is that can Philadelphia establish the running game? Because you sort of brought this up that, you know, the Eagles boasted a top 5 rushing attack through the irregular season. They're one of only 5 teams to rush for over 2,500 yards as a team. They had the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL with 32. They're a clear-cut front runner there as well. They have the most rushing yards in the postseason with 416 and the most rushing touchdowns with 7. And they've only played in 2 postseason games. So it's like counting the teams that
to
played
be fair,
more.
Jalen Hurts accounts for a lot of that.
But I'm just saying that's one of the big things that they still need to do. But like I said, this is the big factor is that the Chiefs had the 8th best rushing defense as far as yards allowed on defense. So they only allowed 10 rushing touchdowns all season. Well, it was just tied for 5th best in the NFL. So like I said, if the Chiefs can sort of hold up and prevent the Eagles from getting these big runs, then that's going to affect the offense a little bit, because one of the big questions also is that, is Jalen Hurts fully healthy? Can he throw the ball deep? He didn't have to do that against San Francisco. He didn't have to do that against New York. So it's like, what are we going to see with Jalen Hurts as far as airing it out? It's like he has done it a couple of times, but consistently where it's like they're going to force him to throw in this game, maybe that's going to be a different story. So I also want to throw an extra wrinkle into the Miles Sanders thing, where it's like, some of the time they have the rotation at running back. Well, not some of the time. They do have a rotation at running back. No, but what I see sometimes is I see the bigger gains coming from the other running backs as opposed to Miles Sanders. So it's like Kenny Gainwell gets a long run. Boston Scott gets a long run. But Miles Sanders, it's more of like death by 1,000 paper cuts approach, where it's like he gets you those 2.5, maybe 3 yards a carry. He gets you those small gains, and then eventually he'll punish you and you'll get some big yards later. But it's like on his first carry, exactly like I said, what worries me is that he may end up with like 3 or 3.2 and he'll fall short of that 3.5. So for me, I'm not going to go with that pick. Like, I'd probably say it's going to fall under. But
all right, fair enough. 3 things real quick. 1, 4.9 yards a carry. Just going to repeat that stat.
Sure.
2, before people go, well, Emergence said they're the 8th best defense. How is that middling, Tad? You're going by, and it's fine that you're doing this, but you're going by total yards. I'm going by yards per carry. So that's
there's 2 different stats. Exactly.
To make that clear to our listeners, because God knows I'm going to hear that from some of them. Third, God damn it, I forgot the third. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay. I just remembered the third. No. I saw this on Super Bowl Media Day. I was like, you moron. Is they asked Jalen Hurts, they're like, hey, that shoulder injury that kept you out of the regular season, how's it feel? And he's like, it's still kind of sore. I'm still kind of working through it. I'm like, no, don't say that. Don't do that. Because now the Chiefs are just going to go after that shoulder. It's like, no, you say like, feels great, feels strong. I hope they go after it. Like, no, you don't say like, yeah, it's still kind of like, don't do that, man. Like that's a Super Bowl rookie mistake there.
Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out. But Tal, let's get into some more fun prop.
All right, let's do it. This is my favorite part. I love this.
Let's do it.
Okay. It is my time to present my favorite Super Bowl bet of every year. The over-under of the National Anthem. Now, unfortunately, this year, I have not heard of who is singing the National Anthem this year. Do you know who's singing it, Mer?
I remember reading the name, but I already forgot the name.
Yeah, I have the exact same experience. So I don't really listen to music, collective gas from our listeners, but
I brought apparently that up many a time.
Oh, I know, but they might.
Tad is the like the preacher I don't like music. Footloose, except with music. That's what I always call him. That's what I always call him.
Dare you? I am nothing. It's not that I don't like what. This is a debate we've had many a times. Anyway, apparently he's a big country star. I don't know. Because if I do listen to music, I certainly don't listen to country. Yeah. Named Chris Stapleton. I hope I.
I've heard of Chris Stapleton. He's a big name. Okay,
he's
a big name.
All right, yep. So there you go. So he has a national anthem this year. Now, usually I go above and beyond. I look up every national anthem video and kind of time them and figure it out, like where they're trends, how do they carry that last note, all that stuff. This is insane. And I thought it was crazy. I had to look it up. It turns out no one else can either. There is zero video proof on the internet of this guy singing the national anthem.
Yeah, maybe he's never done it before, I guess.
Zero. No, he has done it before. We have proof he's done it before, but there's somehow no video evidence. I honestly think it is a conspiracy by Vegas to absolutely screw us here.
It could be.
I'm totally buying into that conspiracy theory. So I kind of had to go off of other facts. Most of the time in the last 20 years, when the anthem has hit the under, because the over is overwhelmingly the favorite. Sorry, I forgot to mention. The odds are, and this is the same both under and over, 2 minutes and 5 seconds minus 115. So it's equal. I think it's equal because even Vegas is like, I don't know. So he most of the time when the anthem hits the under, which is the minority over the last 20 years, most of the artists that have hit the under have been country singers. They just kind of go through it. It makes sense if you think about it. They don't just really carry the note. Yeah, exactly. Now, a lot of people, and this is definitely the most popular pick, are taking the over because this is a hilarious fact. He really likes to go on these guitar riffs apparently and like just kind of make his own thing. He turned a Metallica song that I've never heard of into an 8-minute cover.
Oh,
so he covered a Metallica song, apparently like doubled its time. But here's the thing: you are not going to double the national anthem. Yeah, maybe you can
you can mess around with the cover of a song, but you're not going to do that with the national anthem.
Right. Oh God, no, especially in today's political climate.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. Don't
get ripped to shreds.
Yeah. And on top of that, a lot of people are also saying, well, he loves going on these like guitar solos and stuff. Do you people realize how tightly scheduled the Super Bowl is? Like, he's not going to go on a 30-second guitar solo during the Super Bowl. So honestly, I think he's going to play it safe. I think he's going to go straight country. I'm taking the under at under 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
I got nothing to add. I mean, yeah,
I have very little to add as well. This is hugely frustrating. I've been doing
this. I
have
no idea.
I've been doing this since I was a junior in high school. Little Tad thinking he was going to land on ESPN one day. And I honestly, this was the hardest one to predict I've ever done. Because like I said, usually I have some type of evidence, but I got nothing. So anyway, moving on. This is free money. This is free money. If you disagree with any of our bets and you think all of ours are too risky, and we did pick some risky ones, Miles Sanders, for example, I'm legitimately contemplating putting like $100, $200 on this. Will the broadcast show Patrick Mahomes' injury against the Jaguars? I am so taking the no at -2. It's at -250. I don't care that it's -250. That is free money right there. You might as well be asking, will they show the Tua concussion? Which one? Doesn't matter. They're not showing either one. I love the Super Bowl, don't get me wrong, but Super Bowl week, and especially the game itself, is just basically one giant advertisement for the NFL. Look how great we are. Radio Row, you have all these former and current NFL players walking around just selling products just so you can be like, hey, look at all these great NFL people. Look at how great the NFL is. We're thriving. Freaking Rihanna, she's this halftime show, right?
Yes.
She has a freaking press conference. Who cares? It's all just one big glamour show. And again, nothing wrong with that. They're a business. They need to show off for themselves. I get it. That's fine. Why would you end this big week-long look at me show by being like, hey, you want to see the really violent side of our sport? It makes zero sense. They will not mention the injury. They will not show the injury. They'll definitely mention it, of course.
100%
now, that's a better odd. I looked at these odds 2 days ago. I'm sure it's there. Honestly, I don't know because that's a tough over-under to set. It's like, how many times will they mention the injury? That's more interesting to me. But will they actually show the actual replay? Absolutely not. -250. Now, will they show it in the pregame show? Absolutely. Will they show it during the game? Absolutely not.
That's very possible. I don't think they show many replays from during the season as much in the biggest game there. They usually focus on the game 100% sure. So it's I don't see it happening either, but
I was shocked it was -250. That's why I picked this one.
I think it really just depends on, like I said, if the Eagles pass rush gets to him and they start, focusing on the fact that he's limping and stuff like that, they may decide to cut to that injury to be like,
or if he goes out,
that led to it sort of thing. Or yeah, exactly. Or if it leads to him eventually coming out.
I didn't think about that.
It's a possibility. I'm not saying for sure, but it's just it's a bet that I'm avoiding because it's I don't know which way it could go. I could very much see where it's they don't play it, but I could very much see where they could play it. So, like I said, for me, I'm just gonna avoid it at all costs.
I'm telling you, put your entire life savings on -250. Please don't sue me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have your life savings. I'm a teacher. Trust me.
Exactly. So with the last sort of handful of minutes here, Tad, I kind of just want to do a quick preview here of just, what's to come in the game. I know we sort of talked about it a little bit through the prop bets as well, but just I kind of wanted to raise two questions that I think could be critical. I already asked one of them with Philadelphia establishing the running game. I think that's going to be a big factor. Where I brought up the X factor that I think we both agree on, the Chiefs O-line versus the Eagles pass rush. But I got two more questions that I want to pose to you with some stats behind it. I just want to get your thoughts really quickly on it. It's just, I think a key factor in this game is just who's going to win the turnover battle. I know this is pretty standard with most games, but you have to look at this. In 3 regular season losses that the Eagles have had during the obviously regular season, they had a combined 9 turnovers in that game. So there's a reason why they lost those games, right? They had 4 against Dallas, they had 4 against Washington, and they only had 1 against the New Orleans Saints, but they're also starting Gardner Minshew. So maybe that's part of it too, but just still, they had 4 turnovers and 2 of their big losses against divisional rivals. So that's going to be a key factor. You have to look at Kansas City on the other hand. They were tied for 8th in total turnovers this entire regular season. So it's like they were not all that great with keeping on their hands on the football either. So it's like, which one is going to play out a little bit better? Like, are we going to see the Philly that's been dominant all season long that can control the football and force turnovers on the defensive side? Or are we going to see, them playing against, like I said, against the Washington Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys down the stretch where it's like they forced some bad turnovers, some fumbles, some interceptions, and it led to some bad games that they end up losing, obviously. And same thing with Kansas City. Like I said, to be top 10 in total turnovers lost, that's not something that you want to be happy about. So it's like you want to see how that's going to happen. Like we sort of talked about, I hate to sound like a broken record here, but just if that Eagles pass rush gets after Kansas City and gets after Mahomes, if he's going to have to throw, I know sometimes he likes to play hero ball and instead of taking the sack, he just throws it away and sort of throws it out there. And that's how he gets all these famous plays of like, him diving like this, throw a sidearm, and then, the no-look pass and all that stuff. It's like, oh, that's great. But if it doesn't work out, we're talking about it the exact opposite way. It's like, why did he do this sort of thing, right? So it's like that, those sort of things can possibly happen here. So it's just like, I know that's a big one, so I'm not going to ask you to give too much on the turnover battle here, but just obviously that's a pretty big question to ask, especially on the biggest stage here.
Well, first off, I just have to say, diving like this as you move away from the microphone is doing great things for our listening audience. Well, I love how they know exactly what you're talking about.
It's the diving prone where he's like throwing it sidearm. Is it the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers? I think people know what I'm talking about.
We are masters of words, my friend. We gotta use them. Anyway, as if I'm not guilty of the exact same thing. But like you said, I think it literally all depends on the Eagles pass rush, because if they can get to Mahomes, it obviously depends on his mobility, which while I said I don't think his ankle will be that big of a factor, if they're constantly getting back there, yes, that will obviously become a much bigger factor. I just don't see them getting back there. So I actually think the Chiefs will win this, especially with Snead coming back. Oh God, I'm going to hear this from Philly fans. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is bad. I'm just saying I think the nerves tends to get guys. He's still so young. I don't think he's above 25, 26. He's something around that. And he's barely had 3-4 years of NFL starting experience. So that's a big stage to step up on. And trust me, I've been there. I've been there for a TCU game and that stadium was loud. Imagine how loud it's going to be for the freaking Super Bowl. So I think that Jalen Hurts is more prone to mistakes than Mahomes is, even with the hero ball, which is a very fair concern. But I think with the amount they rush it, fumbles are almost on every play, a huge factor. And on top of that, I'm not sure Jalen Hurts is going to be able to keep a cool head, especially if here's the real X factor is Chris Jones. Chris Jones versus Jason Kelce. And it's going to be a great match because they're both equal. Well, I think I like Chris Jones a little bit more in terms of talent. So if Chris Jones can consistently win that battle, man, I think Jalen Hurts is going to have himself a little bit of a rough game.
That's fair. That's fair. But I will say, I don't know if I trust the jitters so much because he has played in a national title game back in college.
It's
Alabama.
Not the same. Don't compare them.
I don't think it's exactly the same, but it is like big crowds. College crowds sometimes can be a little bit louder than NFL.
He didn't even win the game. Tua did.
I know he got taken out, but still, he has played in the title game. He's obviously had to prepare for it too. So it's like, it's not completely brand new to him. That's all I'm saying. So, but we'll see. We'll see, obviously. We'll see how that all. So then the other question that I have is more Chiefs related here is just, outside of Travis Kelce, who will step up in this offense? Because the big thing is that
that's a good
the receivers for Kansas City has been, with that loss of Tyreek Hill, it's like a lot of guys are playing sort of like, a full group effort mode to pair up with Travis Kelce, right? So, but here's the problem. The Eagles have allowed only 129.7 yards per game to opposing wide receivers, which was 5th best in the NFL. So you look at Kelce, he's going to get his because he's such a dominant player. The Eagles linebackers are probably not going to be able to cover him all that well. There will be maybe at times they could cover him, but just not consistently for 4 quarters of a game. So Travis Kelce is going to have a good game. But just outside of that is like, you got McCole Hardman, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you got Kadarius Toney. I know there's a lot of names there, but just like, they're just names. I'm not really feeling a sense of like fear when these guys are playing out there. So it's like, I know this overall made the offense better with Patrick Mahomes, so he's just finding the open receiver, but the Eagles have a really good secondary, especially with Avonte Maddox returning to play the slot corner. That's going to be a big factor for Philadelphia to sort of shore up their secondary as well, with James Bradbury and Darius Slay, like arguably one of the two best corners in the game right now, sort of thing. So James Bradbury, maybe not, but Darius Slay.
Sure. I didn't want to push you on that because we're running against time, but I was like, James Bradbury.
James Bradbury, more of like one of the biggest offseason signings because the Giants cut him.
He's a good complimentary. He's a good complimentary cornerback.
Exactly. But just like that secondary is really good. And you pair that with the pass rush. Once again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it's just like, that sort of worries me about the receivers in Kansas City stepping up outside of Travis Kelce. Like, I know he's a tight end, but he's a glorified receiver. Come on.
Yeah.
So that's what worries me a little bit about Kansas City. It's like, who's going to step up outside of Travis Kelce in that passing offense? What are your thoughts there?
Isaiah Pacheco.
Outside the passing offense, I'm saying specifically.
No, I know. Isaiah Pacheco.
Isaiah Pacheco, the passing offense? Okay.
Oh, wait, you mean okay, I see what you mean. I thought you meant like no one in the passing offense. Like,
no, in the offense, I think the running game is going to be crucial.
Okay.
So yeah, your Pacheco, your Jet McKinnon, maybe a little bit of Ronald Jones too. But I'm talking about the passing offense specifically. It's like some of those guys need to sort of take a larger role if the Chiefs want to sort of stand a little bit more chance. Because if they get shut down, they can sort of lock in on Travis Kelce and make that passing game sort of one-dimensional then.
Juju. It's got to be Juju, right?
That's why I'm asking the question. I really don't know.
It has to be Juju. There's no,
okay.
Yeah, you look at McCole Hardman, he can maybe do some things out of the slot, but it's just, I don't think he's a good enough talent to really do anything. Unless I think he's hurt as well. I think he will be good to go for the game if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. I've been very busy this week. Sorry guys. I'm literally coming back from 2 weeks off of school. So it's hard for me to keep up with injury news. But yeah, it's gotta be Juju. And especially because, hey, man, you're going into a free agency year. This is the time to prove it. And we have seen plenty of times big-time Super Bowl performers get overpaid a lot. And we know that is why Juju took the one-year prove-it deal because for better or worse, he believes himself. Didn't quite have the year I think either one of us was expecting. But, all right, this is your time to make up for it. This is your time to step up. And he is a dynamic athlete. I'm not saying he's a bad receiver. So
he is.
It has to be Juju. It's got to be him.
Yeah. And then MBS had a great game.
Hold on. Let me guess because I always screw it up. Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, you got it right.
Yes!
And then you look at MVS. He had a really great game against Cincinnati last 2 weeks ago now, I guess, with a date here. So it's like there are guys who have stepped up, but just like that's the thing that worries me. It's just if Philadelphia can shut down the receivers and they have to rely on Travis Kelce fully in the passing game, that could be a little bit of a detriment too.
I just need to clarify something for our newer listeners. I'm very bad with names. And so when we first started this podcast, I used to mix it up. And I do know his last name, kind of. And so I always got confused if it was Schuster Smith or Smith Schuster.
Yeah, there you go. So that's our quick preview. And we also gave you a lot of great prop bets there. So Tad, really quick, what's your final score prediction?
So this is making me nervous because I made one during the Senior Bowl and I can't remember what it was. I think it was 34-24, but the more research I do into this, and I think it was Jamal that said this, or it might have been Will that was like, no, you guys are both wrong. It's going to be lower scoring. I think he's right, actually. So I'm going to, whatever I predicted during the Senior Bowl, I'm going to change it. I think it's going to be 24-17 Kansas City.
It was me because all of you guys had higher scores, and I was like, I think it's going to be lower. And so I'm actually changing my pick because I think we had a consensus. All four of us were picking Kansas City to win that game. But the more research that I did, I'm actually feeling confident in Philly. Okay. I'm feeling confident in Philly. So I raised my score just a little bit. I think I had it 24-20 when we did our Senior Bowl pick. But now I'm going 27-23. The Eagles are going to pull off this victory.
We could also see that happening. And yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so excited for the Super Bowl because honestly, I don't know who's going to win this game. I think Kansas City is going to win it, but neither outcome would surprise me. What would surprise me is a blowout. That would surprise me. I'm not seeing a blowout happening. But yeah, no, I'm seeing a close game either way, as long as both quarterbacks stay healthy. Sorry, Mer. I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. But yeah, no, I'm expecting a close game either way. And this is going to be a good matchup.
I think so. I'm really hoping it's going to be a good game. I hope for that with the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, I did not get that.
Well, but you would have gotten it if Brock Purdy. I was surprised. I was watching the honor show tonight, and he's not like in a sling or anything, which surprised me.
He's going to get surgery on the 22nd. So that's
but
why.
still, like, don't you need a sleep? That sounds like it hurts.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's maybe a reason as to why.
Well, also NFL players tend to be a little tougher than me, so that would explain a lot.
That could be a part of it too. But yeah, so that's our Super Bowl preview. We gave you some prop bets. We gave you our preview picks. We gave you our final score predictions. But we'd love to hear from you during the game too. Like maybe not so much from Tad because he's actually.
I was going to say, Amir would love to hear from you.
But we'd still love to hear from you. We'd just love to hear your comments as far as what you think is going to happen in the game, your post-game reactions. I mean, just anything and everything, guys. Like, I mean, we'd love to hear from you on our social media handles below that you see on the ticker right there. So you can follow us on Twitter. My personal handle, UnDecide23. Tad's at TadDecide94. The show handle at The Decide Guys. And, of course, on Instagram at The Decide Guys as well. And, yeah, we got the podcast going. We got YouTube going. Make sure you're subscribing to both of them. So we'd love to, get your comments on what you think about what's going to happen with the Super Bowl there as well, with the comments in the YouTube comments or, podcast ratings. I mean, anything and everything. Just make sure you're doing that as well. And after the Super Bowl's over, it does not stop content with us. We have already mentioned this before, but we're going gung-ho with draft content for you guys. So we got a lot of episodes planned. We're going to give you positional rankings. We're going to have a mock draft. We're going to be bringing on guests. I mean, there's a lot of things we got planned, and it's all going to be draft related. We're going to sprinkle in, obviously, some free agency stuff and a few of those other things, fantasy football related topics too. So make sure you're staying up to date with everything that's happening with us. And to everybody who's already watching, listening, interacting with us, reading the articles on the website, I mean, guys, we really just can't thank you enough.
And not to brag, but I will probably more than likely be posting photos of the Super Bowl experience in person on the Decide Guys Twitter. So if you're interested in learning about that or just seeing what it's like, if you have any questions about like, is it too crowded? What are the Philly fans like? Because I'm kind of scared of that one. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm heading to the game. I'm trying to work out all these time zones. Like what East Coast, West Coast, whatever. If I still have reception, I will respond. If not, I'm sure Amir will be like, Tab will handle this later. So if you guys have any questions about the Super Bowl experience or want to know what it looks like, we will be updating Twitter, maybe Instagram as well. So be sure to follow those accounts below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for listening. And it's not stopping after the Super Bowl. We got full steam ahead with the draft. We got, like Amir said, some more fantasy football offseason stuff coming in. We literally have our next 8-9 weeks planned out. So we got a lot of content. Yeah, we got a lot of content headed your way. So guys, as always, thank you so much for listening, and please stay safe, everyone, especially Philly fans.